Good day, everybody. It's Brother Chris here, sitting in, and Jillian's also here. Hey,
Hello, people.
so yes, and we also have a special guest right now in the studio. His name is Shawn Leonard. Most people know him from APTN, the Spirit Talker. Welcome, Shawn.
Well, thank you for having me on, Chris and Jill. It's nice to see you both here today.
Yes, yes. Now, most people sort of know you about the TV show Spirit Talker. Some people know you way before you even got way big, which is a good friend of yours and mine. But you sort of want to let our viewers know about your actually spiritual walk, sort of.
Yeah. So, which for my journey, like into becoming a spirit talker, or
It doesn't matter any which
okay.
way.
Well, I've been doing this work. Oh wow, since my 20s, sometime like probably 24, 25, around that time. I was really kind of stepped into it around there. I'm 53 now, so it's been like 20. It seems like the other day, but man, my life has gone by like that.
Yes.
And I
3
find
years is a long
before you know it,
time.
we'll all be in the spirit world again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
But
that.
no, I think, we all have a purpose in life, and there's something that guides us within life itself, all of us. And I think when you really are aligned with that, then everything just literally aligns. So I feel like I said, I've been doing this work a long time. I didn't have a TV show back in the day. I didn't have a book or an oracle card deck, and wasn't a guest on podcasts. I mean, I don't even think internet was that big of a thing when I was started off with doing this. I remember, when I first started actually doing this work in my 20s, it was, you know, you had to have a program to check your email. Like, you actually had to buy a program to check your email. And you had to put in your information, POP3 server information, just to get your email. And then I remember when Facebook first came out, it was just like, it was so cool. I mean, I wasn't even on Facebook for the longest time. And then finally I broke down and decided to get on Facebook too. And then now look at the internet. Now we're all like streaming live from everywhere. And as a kid, I remember thinking, how amazing would it be just to have a phone that you could see your mom when you're talking to them, or your friend.
Yeah.
And here we are, like, talking in complete three different places, and it's perfectly clear and fine. What amazing bunch of years of technology and spirit, have kind of brought us all together into this space and place right now. But I mean, my journey, I wish I could say it was like one thing, but it's like many things. It's not one thing in particular. There's a lot of epiphanies on my journey that I've had, but I think, when you start to become more aware, you start to look back and think, hey, this wasn't an accident. This meant something. This all came together, meaning to this person at this time, with synchronicity, that spirit kind of aligned it. And that's how I see my life, more from now, is that, spirit's always orchestrating stuff in the background that you sometimes don't even know, but it's for the greater good of yourself, your plan, your purpose, and for humanity overall.
Yeah. It's like so true.
Every path you take leads to the road. It's the path that you choose. So every
Yes.
day you choose a path, but you end up getting to the road.
Yeah.
So with your spirit talking, how does that work?
Well, with spirit talking, I feel like, I mean, sometimes, like when I started off like doing this way back in the day, I was very resistant. It's not something I set out to be a spirit talker. I never graduated high school and thought, I'm going to be a spirit talker. I'm going to be a psychic medium. I would have never thought that ever, even though I had a very profound visitation from my father when I was 16. After his passing when I was 15, that he came to me and visited me in a dream, but it was like a realistic visitation dream. It was like very profound. It was actually, the only way for me to describe it is that it's more real than the conversation we're having today. It just seemed real, like realer than real. And I got to see the other side, and not that I went into the other side, I just got to see it from this side. I
Yeah.
got to see the light in the space from which he had moved from into my world for a moment. And I got to see that unconditional love and light that surrounded him. And I can remember it to this day. And I remember looking at it and thinking, oh my God, I'm somehow in some type of fake reality. This is not real. That's real. And then I'm in some type of like matrix now, before the matrix came out. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go. And my dad said, no, you're not coming in here. And I'm like, Well, I'm just going to go check it out because I knew if I could get in there, there's no way you're going to have to fight me to get me back out. And because all I could think about was going home when I saw it. And, he showed me a couple things. He showed me what it looked like for my mom if I left and my brother if I left. And it was like horrendous. Like they would go through like years and years of grief, especially my mom would go through 7 years more of grief after losing my father. And I felt everything she would go through. And you know what? Even though seeing and feeling what she would go through, I still would opt to leave because I knew in my mind at that time, at 16 years old, that no matter what my mom went through, what she struggled through, what she endured, eventually, even if it cost her her life, she'd be coming home and back with me and my father eventually anyway. So this was not like forever. This is not a forever thing of her straying. So and then I tried to go past my dad, and he said, "Well, you're not coming here. This is not your purpose." And he's long before you were born, you are going to be helping people understand this connection that we have from here on the other side. And I literally at that age thought it was gibberish, because to me it just doesn't make sense. All I'm thinking about at this point in my life is playing guitars and chasing girls, and that's all I had in my mind. I mean, you're 16 freaking years old. What else would you have in your mind as a young man, right? And
you're not thinking ahead.
yeah, exactly. And then I just brushed it off. And then my dad said, "No, tell your mom I'm okay. Tell your brother I'm okay." And I woke up on the couch, and I thought, "Wow, that was so awesome." Not thinking about what he said at all, and just went and told my mom, thinking that she'd be stoked, literally, that I had this deep, like, spiritual dream connection with my father, and she was pissed off because she said, "Well, what? Doesn't he know how much pain I'm in? Why did he come to you and not me?" And the reason is because, and I know this now, that she was in a different space of her healing journey than I was. I'm young.
Wasn't ready.
Yeah, right. She wasn't ready for that yet, and she had to go through a process of healing to allow herself to kind of raise her energy again to reconnect. And I went about my life and moved, to Newfoundland, spent some time with my Mi'kmaq grandmother in Newfoundland. And then, and I thought I was going to be a fisherman for a minute there, because that's just where I was flying by the seat of my pants. Finished school and thinking, okay, this is the journey I'm on. This is what I'm going to do. And then an old girlfriend calls. Next, I'm back in Nova Scotia thinking about how do I go to Ottawa where she is, and because she joined the military. And so she calls me back and apologizes and says, "I'm so sorry, Shawn, that, I think I made a terrible mistake calling you. I've been drinking a little bit, I don't want you to come here with me. I want you to stay where you are." And I'm like, okay, I was thinking I was going to be a fisherman in Newfoundland, and now I'm back home. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Again, not thinking about anything my father said. And then, I knew that my aunts, my mom's sisters, had lived in Calgary, Alberta. And I called them because there wasn't a whole lot of work in Nova Scotia. So I was like, well, I need to go someplace that there's a more booming economy to actually get a job. So I called my aunt, and she says her boyfriend, Mike, is working at some furniture company. And they're actually hiring some people. If you come out, I'm pretty sure he can get you in. So off I go to Calgary, Alberta, get a job at an office furniture company.
New job in mind, that's it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Meet a girl, and then the girl that I met, we got engaged, and she got pregnant. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe, this is what kind of sent everything on this kind of new journey that I was on, in a sense, was because my wife, she wasn't my wife at that point, but I was 23, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be a father, maybe I should go get my cholesterol checked, because my dad died at 42.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave my kids where my dad left me in life and, fatherless at a very young age. So I'm just going to go get my cholesterol checked just to make sure. So I go to the doctor and get my cholesterol checked, and, thinking that they're not going to call me. And she literally called me right away. And she said, "Shawn, can you come in? I need to see you and talk to you right away." So I go into the doctor's office and I sit down, and she goes, "Shawn, I'm looking at your cholesterol levels here." She goes, "What the hell are you doing in your life? Like, do you smoke? Do you eat bad? Like, what? Your cholesterol is so high that if you don't actually stop smoking and start eating differently and exercising, you won't make it to 42. Now, that really made me think about my mortality at a very young age, right? And anyway, I shifted my life in a very short time. I started exercising. I quit smoking. I went on the patch. But I also I started a real kind of more deeper spiritual journey. So I started to speaking with spirit more. I started having conversations with my ancestors, my guides. I started trying to connect to my guides. I started to meditate more. I started to go down this kind of like rabbit hole of spirituality. And the reason is because I was trying to live a more balanced life, predominantly. Let's just say, when you're living a balanced life, it has to be about body, taking care of your body and my physical wellness, my mental wellness, but also my spiritual wellness. So, body, mind, and spirit. And and I think, when you start to working all these things together, it balances you out in such a way, it kind of raises your energy vibration. And I started to make inadvertent connections. Again, not remembering what my dad thought, just living life.
Yeah.
And then going to my ex-wife. And then I started to get more kind of, let's say, intuitions, like more intuitive about people or situations or circumstances. And I used to just like brush it off as just everybody became more sensitive as they got older, right? Analyzing, because I don't think I have any gifts in any way at all. And I went to my ex-wife's work, and I'd buy about her coworkers just for fun, almost, because not telling them, but I would just kind of like think, I bet you that guy's a drug dealer, And I said, he smells like weed. I bet you he deals a little bit of drugs on the side, That guy, I bet you he's not, I wouldn't trust him with money. I mean, like, he's not a trustworthy person. I'm surprised they haven't caught him stealing. And then I'd see these couple walking around. They weren't a couple. They were like separate men and women in the restaurant, and they wouldn't look at each other, but they would kind of bug each other in kind of a weird way. And I was like, I feel like they're hooking up. And so that's kind of how it started. And then we got in the car, driving home. I tell my wife, I said, listen, what do you think about these people, And so I tell her, and she goes, oh, well, that guy's father's a minister. I don't think he'd ever be like, stealing money or anything like that. And that guy, I know he smokes a little bit of weed, but I'm sure he's not a drug dealer. And they're married to other people. I've never even seen them look at each other. And then, a week later, she comes home. She says, you're not going to freaking guess what happened today. I'm like, I have no freaking idea. She goes, I caught the couple kissing first. Then the cops came and arrested the guy for dealing drugs. And then the other guy got fired for stealing money from the till, and he got caught by management. She goes, how the hell did you know this? And I'm like, I didn't really know anything. It's just a thought I had, just a vibe I had, just a sense that I had, right? And that's what I brushed it up. It's just something that I had a little bit more extra sensory perception about people.
You didn't really give it too much thought. You just kind of, it happened, whatever, and
right,
it off.
Absolutely. This is just like, and just some people are just more skilled at certain things. Cops are good at reading people for different reasons, and maybe this is kind of like that. I'm a good people person, so maybe a good reader of energy of people. I would have never said, hey, I think I'm psychic. But it was actually my wife who then talked to a lady she worked with named Jen Sign. And Jen had been to all kinds of psychics. And she heard about what I said. And so anyway, her and my wife hooked up and said, listen, we're going to have Jen over for supper on Sunday. I talked to her about you. And after the dinner, you're going to actually sit with her and you're going to read her. I'm like, pardon me? Like, what do you mean, read her? She goes, yeah, just vibrate like you did with people at work. I told her about she thinks you have a gift and you just don't know it. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I freaking don't. And you should have talked to me about this first. And so anyway, Jen comes over. We have dinner. I'm sitting around, and again, she's like, just tell me what you think. Just don't worry about it. You can't do any wrong here. Just vibe me out. And I'm like, I'm tuning into her, and I'm thinking, So I think about this guy named Dale, and I don't know why I'm thinking Dale, but I said, did you meet a guy named Dale by any chance? She goes, I just met Dale. We've actually been dating for about 2 to 3 weeks now. I'm like, wow. I mean, like, where did that come from, right? And then she goes, and I said, for whatever reason, I'm thinking about going like to different houses, and I'm seeing pets, and like maybe traveling or something like this. And she goes, well, actually, me and Dale talked about this. We think it would be good business if we went and looked after people's homes and cared for their pets while they're on vacation. I can work for my dad. I can quit the restaurant, and I can go wherever And then I said, well, are you thinking about writing a book too? She goes, I am working on a book. It's called The Masses Are Asses. And it's a book about serving people at restaurants, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And I said, are you shitting me? Like, are you really, is this real? Like, and she goes, yeah, I am. She goes, wow, you're so good. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking in my head, okay, this is like, I'm reading her mind, or this is coming because she's thinking about all these things. And so then she goes, well, I wanted to talk to somebody in the spirit world, and I'm hoping you can do this, and I think that you can. Because I've been to several people, and I've never had this connection, but I'm hoping that you can at least try and see if it can happen. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I can't do that, but I will try. And so I start thinking very generalistic, like she's probably got a grandmom past, right? So I was like, okay, grandmom's in the spirit world, and and she goes, I do have a grandmom past. And I said, you probably spent a lot of time with her when you're young, and I just feel like I'm making this up, literally. And then I said, well, I see her kind of like, she's got short hair, curly, she's got short curly hair, a little bit of glass, she's very small in frame, and and she goes, that's my grandmom. I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, but that's not who I want to talk to. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
I think this is as good as it gets. I've never done this before, so
I
just keep trying.
Yeah, I know spirits want to show who they are, right? And sometimes though, underneath your shows, you say that there's a lineup of spirits that want to come forward.
Yes.
Right. So
I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
This is my first.
All right. But yeah, for your first reading though, but was it sort of like that though, like how you say it on your show though? If spirits want to line up, was it sort of like that your first time, or did the person just pop in your head like that?
Just saw that person. She was the one that said, "Keep going, keep trying." There's someone else. So I'm sitting there staring, thinking, okay, well, who the hell does she want to talk to? Because I don't freaking know, right?
Yeah.
And then, boom, I see this image in my mind. Now, mind you, I've been doing a lot of meditations, right? So it's very like having a meditation, but I wasn't meditating. I was sitting there kind of staring at the floor. And then I had an image pass in my mind, and it was of a young man wearing a baseball uniform, and he had a baseball in his hand, and there was a shed behind him. And he just bounced the ball up and down his hand twice and walked into a shed. I have no idea what this means, so I tell her, and she cried. And I'm like, she goes, that's the person I wanted to talk to. I'm like, really? And she goes, is he okay? And I didn't really know how to answer that, to be honest, because I didn't know. I'm like, I feel he's okay, Jen. I don't know why I would see this unless he's really trying to make a connection to you. Mine, I'm thinking in my head, did this happen because she's thinking about him? Like, I'm still trying to analyze what's taking place.
Almost like she's projecting it onto you.
Right. Like, am I somehow figuring, am I a good mind reader? Is this telepathy of something, or is this really a person? Like, I couldn't distinguish. And it was later in life that I started to explore, because she went and told 5 other waitresses, and they told 5 other waitresses. Next thing you know, I got people calling me to come see me, and I'm like, how the hell did this happen? Right?
Word of mouth goes fast.
Yeah, I did not anticipate this happening at all. I'm just trying to work and raise my family and raise my kids and provide for my family. And then next thing you know, I've got 3 months of bookings with people, and I'm like, okay, well, and I was charging so little. I was $20 or $30 a session for my time. I thought that was a lot, and then I was burning out. I had people coming all the time. And then I met another professional psychic who said, you're charging way too little, you got to charge more. And then that kind of narrowed it down. So then I wasn't having as many people come, which is great because I was slammed. And but I still was getting a lot of people call. And so it wasn't until I started to get things that people didn't know that I realized that this was coming from spirit. And it was amazing because it would come to me and I'd work with it and they were like, I don't know this. I'm like, how can you not know this? It's because you have to know this. This has to be in your head. You have to be thinking about this, because if this is coming from you, then you have to know this. And they didn't. And then later they call me or message me and go, listen, Shawn, you were right. I didn't know this, and you were right. And so it gave me a lot of confidence to kind of step into this further and go deeper. And And I mean, there's a few moments that were very pivotal, and really just like surrendering all of my doubt and just embracing this fully. And yeah, and then I became more versed in it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a skill. I feel it's just like your body. When you exercise, right? When you exercise your body, and you eat well, your body is going to be formed and shaped. But your spirit, your mind is like that too. If you work it in such a way, just like somebody who's really good at chess. If you think about chess moves all the time and practice chess and read about chess, then you're going to become very versed at chess. You're going to be like, okay, you could become somebody who is an expert at chess. And I feel like it's like that for me, except with a language of sorts of communication that I didn't have words for, but it turns out there are words like clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance. And then it started to be where I start to have people kind of piling up in my brain. They start visiting me sometimes when I'd be sleeping and didn't even know who the hell and why the hell they were standing at the end of my room, for God's sakes.
It started getting out of hand, and you had to learn how to shut that off, right?
Yeah, I did. I had to learn to control it more and set my boundaries. And it was really just being clear with spirit what I was open to and not open to.
Setting a time limit, schedule, routine, something.
Yeah, or just,
Separate.
don't come to me when I'm sleeping, please. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sleeping. Leave me be until, if you're here for so-and-so, come to me when they're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love what you've said, though, for spirits, though, and this is actually underneath one of your live streams, though, is put a boundary actually up for the spirits. Say,
Yeah.
you tell spirits, so, okay, this is my area, you may not enter. Right. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I love, though, that you've said actually underneath one of your past live shows.
Yes, also, when I started to reconnect more to my culture as an Indigenous person, I started to learn about ceremony, how important your words and how you say them, where you come from and your intention, and the extension of the smudge that I filled the room with, with my burning sage, sweetgrass, or my cedar, etc. And then, setting those boundaries with those words with my smudge too.
Yeah.
And but in a good way, with a loving, unconditional, loving way. And so that, because the smudge and the words that you place into it is an extension of your prayer, your ceremony. And so that was having an effect around me. So that was my protection, my barrier.
That's okay. So, all right. Well, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break, and we're talking with Shawn Leonard. Are you looking for that hard-to-find item, spiritual item, that your loved one wants to always get, but you don't know right where to check out? Why not check us out here underneath HauntedLifePodcast.com. Underneath our store, though, we actually have tons of items, from dream catchers, crystals, so many more for you. Check us out underneath HauntedLifePodcast.com.
Follow us here at Haunting Live, our new shows, and we are honored to have a brand new co-host on our shows now. Yolanta Mary is our co-host, and she does a lot of work for us on the side and introduces people to the show and discusses different topics on the show. So we're really happy to have her here this season. So go check out our brand new episode.
All right, so yeah, we're back actually from this quick commercial break. Shawn Leonard's actually in the studio, and for a lot of people, though, is if you're not familiar with him, check him out if you do get APTN, or even if you want to go underneath YouTube, type in Shawn Leonard, and Shawn's got a lot of great courses, and he also does a lot of private courses also. So that's what we're going to start off with those. So Shawn, I know though that you've actually always advertise about your courses actually online, like through YouTube and all that. Do you want to sort of let our viewers know about your last courses that you did by any chance?
Well, I have a course that I run every year. It's called Spirit Talker Tribe. And it's like the process that I learned to go through to kind of develop with myself. Because I myself didn't have any type of like formal training in the sense of like understanding how to open this or how to make this greater. It was kind of like spirit kind of taught me. And it kind of just happened to me in such a way that I understood why I went and learned this and this and this and this. So I've laid out a 12-month program where I teach people about connecting and developing their own intuitive psychic abilities. And it first starts with your, raising your spiritual energy and understanding through your prayers and words and through, your ceremonies and through your meditations, etc. And then once you start making then you start making connections to your angels, your gods, your ancestors. And then we start stepping into like utilizing and working with your psychic abilities, like clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudence, claircognizance. So giving people a very good, let's say, ground base, like framework, so that they can approach life in whatever form they are. And, I think intuition and intuitive abilities, psychic mediumship abilities can help you in so many aspects of life, whether you're a healer, a person that speaks on radio or TV, or you're guiding people as a psychologist or therapist or, a nurse. I feel like we have to kind of like be intuitive to people sometimes about things. And I think it's not just for people who are on TV or who are authors, etc. I think it's innate within all of us. And I think it's something that eventually we're supposed to remember, because we are spirit first. We've always been spirit first. We've taken on this temporarily human form in this body, but I've been in many bodies from many lifetimes and probably many worlds as well. And so have you. And it's remembering who you are and that reconnection to the essence of all your ancestors and other people's ancestors too. So that's kind of where I guide people through my course on Spirit Talker Track.
Yeah, and I know that you're usually actually also on YouTube doing small little promotion stuff to do with your courses. And I love, honestly, Trevor and myself. So Trevor, for everybody listening that's not sure who Trevor is the host of Font and Live podcast. Shawn's been actually on the Trevor show a couple times. But anyway, so is Trevor and I, we just sit back and we listen to you. We meditate right when you do it. And we do say thank you. Now, Jillian has been using your book occasionally. Whenever we used to do ghost walks, though, we used to actually open up people's chakras. And Jill used to use your book directly, because your book actually indicates to do with the chakras. Yes. Right? I don't know if Jill wants to continue on about that.
I've only used it a couple times. I'm not what you would call into the spiritual world. I'm kind of like encapsulating. I have intuition. I have some clairvoyance. I can hear when spirits is talking to me. Part of the paranormal world. In some cases, I've been called a grounding witch, or I've been called a white witch, dark witch, natural witch. So I do have some of that. I've never really studied it completely. So when I'm reading other people's work, I try to channel them in a way that honors them as I'm reading their work. So doing the chakras, it was a little bit difficult for me because I obviously had never met you and I wasn't sure who you were, and I'm just going, I'm hoping this works. So in my case, what would you help me with to understand you more when it comes to opening chakras?
Well, chakras, you are light. You're a light being. You're an orb of light. And you've entered into this body. When we go to the spirit world, we move around the spirit world. We can move as with form, or we can move in the spirit world formless in the sense that we return to our orb of light. But we can go from appearance, from the appearance that we have from this lifetime or many lifetimes, or the orb of light. But pure white light, if you break down the spectrum of light, there's a prismatic rainbow effect that not only exists in the rainbows that you see that the light shines through the prism, etc., but it's within you. So when you're activating and opening up your energy centers within your body, within light, then what you do is you focus on certain areas and certain centers to open the prismatic colors within you. And then when you do kind of like activate and open, then you can extend your aura a little bit. Because when you're engaged in that, you're raising your energy through your chakra system. But your chakra system is directly connected to your aura and your orb of light. So when you're working to become as a psychic or medium, and a lot of people, just think about this. If you're moving into a space with fear, your orb of light, your light that is surrounding your body, is much tighter and closer to the body. But when you're open spiritually and you've kind of activated your chakras through visualization and through, let's say, clairsentient ability at the same time, and you extend that into your aura, then you walk through a space more connected, more open, more receptive to what you're going to encounter in a space like that. Now, this is good for two things. One, for understanding information from the location, because as a psychic medium, you could be able to walk through the space and feel something in a certain space. And it might not be spirit. It could be, let's say, an imprint of energy from the past. So you may feel like, oh, somebody was killed in this space. You don't feel their spirit here, but you can tell that somebody was hurt or injured in this space. And I'll give you an example of this. I had a lady some time ago bring me to her house because she thought her house was haunted after her son had died. Now, I went to her house. I didn't see the spirit of her son haunting the lotion. But did I pick up the energy or the spirit of her son? Yes, because he's with her. He loves her. Of course, he's going to be visiting her, right? Now, I walked through the house. In one space that I walked to, I felt like my cheekbone had just got punched really hard. I could feel almost like it was like the after effect of getting punched on my cheekbone. And I felt like I had to rub my face. And wow, somebody got walloped right here. And she goes, that's so funny because my son punched a guy right in that space. Now, why would I tune into that? It's because my energy, my aura, my bubble of light is perceptive and open to receiving the energy in the location. Is he haunting that space? No. But there's an imprint of the energy of the exchange that happened in that space. And then I walked over to another space, and then I start to see an argument with him and his sister, and I could see that things were being swept off the table, and there was a big to-do about, I didn't know really about what, but I knew there was like some type of argument. She goes, well, the last interaction that, my son and his sister, my daughter, had was at that table, and there was a big fight. They weren't physically fighting, but he got really upset and threw everything off the table. So I saw that. Now, is that intelligently haunting the space? No, it's just an imprint of information that exists. And so it was giving me information about his life, right? And sometimes when I enter a space, if there's like spirits, because there's different levels of energy with spirits, right? There's high level spirits in the light, and sometimes there's occasionally earthbound spirits that are kicking around here, right? You can call them ghosts, you can call them whatever, but they're just people. And I've met some of these people, and some of these people will act like they're like the devil, or they'll act like they're a demon. I mean, and usually I just call them out and say, listen, I know who the hell you are, so I don't know why you're pretending to be something else. They start talking like a normal person again, because that's who they are. But they're trying to scare me or startle me to move out of their space, because this is their home, not my home. I'm invading their space. Now, when I walk into a space, because of that aura, that light that I bring into the place, sometimes spirits will use my light to transition, if they choose. Or they'll see my light and avoid me like the plague. And they'll stay the hell away from me, because they don't want help. They want to stay where they are, and they just stay away from me. And that's fine. But I'm there to help people. I'm here to help people physically in life and guide them with connections to the people in the spirit world. But I'm also there to help spirits if they feel like they need help to return home. And occasionally I run into them, and some of them don't want my help. And that's okay. I still send them love. I still send them ceremony. I may light some smudge for them or leave an offering there for them, because maybe they'll change their mind at some point. But I still enter the space from the same place with unconditional kindness, respect, and love, because that's who we truly are. That's our true form. When we left the light to come into the world, that's when the egotistical, earthbound mind comes into the fact of it. And that's how we identify ourselves, right? Now, Wicca is just, it's like it's a ceremony. It's a ceremony, right? Wicca is a ceremony. I mean, there's Indigenous people have their ceremonies. Catholic people have their ceremonies. It's just a different ceremony of connection to Mother Earth, to Grandmother Moon, Grandfather Sun, Mother Nature, and the connection through ceremony to the spirit world. And it's just how you engage with it. And again, and what I would say is there's a good way to do that and not a good way to do that. So it depends on what you choose. But I feel like, when I approach things, I always approach it from a good place, good space, because that's who I am. That's where the energy I come from.
So to follow that up, have you ever helped anybody cross over the path to the other spirit realm where they don't come back anymore and they're
Yes, many times. At least 12 people I've transitioned.
Yeah.
But there's some that I have not transitioned. And there's one that I'd like to go back and help. There's a lady, there's a property here in Nova Scotia. There's a place called Muscatawbin. And I went out there probably about 9 years ago. And I was out there because it was a friend, and she has a camper cottage, but it's really a trailer, not a camper trailer, but a regular sized trailer. And her name's Janet Maxwell McDonald. And she's got a property out there. And I went out there because we were having a fire and we were going to spend the night, and it was with my ex-wife, mind you, but we were out there on the property. And I'm not thinking about spirits. I'm thinking about how beautiful the night is and the stars are and the fire is. And just being amongst friends, having good conversation. Minding my own business for a minute, just admiring the fire. This lady comes up to me and goes, "I don't like you on my property." I'm like, what the freaking hell? I'm like, you guys got somebody on your land, because I heard her as clear as another person speaking to me. I said, there's a lady on your land. She goes, oh, well, we feel her around sometimes. This used to be her property. And we bought the land because, she died. And I said, well, what happened? The story of her is? She goes, well, actually, she had a big house fire. And right where we're having the fire is where her house used to be. I'm like, I'm sure she's stoked, really, literally, because we're having a fire where her house used to be, and she's still hanging out on the property. And then I knew she would come back to talk to me. So then I took my ex-wife's phone. I wish it was my own phone because I would actually have a physical recording of it myself. But I had my ex-wife's phone and I hit record, and I waited 15 minutes. Just enjoying the evening. Just not thinking about nothing, just being present and mindful. She came back and she goes, "Tell that woman's son to stop hunting on my property." And I got it. And I stopped it, and I played it back, and everybody there could hear her talking to me just like that. Just like as clear as that. With this backwoods accent.
Yeah.
And anyway, I haven't gone back to the property, and I never transitioned, but I would like to help her. And I wasn't there long enough to kind of do anything. So I'd like to go back and see if she's still there. And I know she kind of is. The reason is because Janet had sent me a message and said, listen, you're not going to guess what happened to my son. You know when she said don't hunt back in the property anymore? Well, he's got a hunting camp back there on the land. And he found these old mounds. He's scared to dig them up because he thinks there might be people back there buried. And he was in his hunting camp at 3 o'clock in the morning, and somebody came and started banging on the windows and doors and just banging on the walls. Scared him so bad he jumped out of there with his gun and his flashlight, and there was nobody around. And so I know she's kicking around. And, she still identifies as it being her land, her property. And she wasn't too kindly happy that I was there on her property or land and having a fire where her house burned down.
Yeah, but at least she knew that she could talk to you, obviously. Spirits recognize the person that they can go to and connect with. And she's probably been trying for years, and everybody wouldn't hear her, and you were the first one to hear her. So she was giving you everything she has.
Right. Now, to go back to your question about your chakras and your aura, right? I think that's connected because I feel because I'm a very spiritually connected person, that because of that work that I do spiritually and the alignment that I do with my chakras and the extension of my aura, I don't have to go walk around going, I'm Shawn Leonard.
Yeah.
I'm a psychic medium. I don't have to identify to them that I am this person. They can see it in your aura, and they can see it in your life, who you are. Just like sometimes when you meet a person, you may see them and say, I bet you that guy's a cop. Or I bet you that person's a nurse. Or that person feels like a psychologist. There's a vibe that comes with certain people that we psychically can tune into. But spirits know how to identify people who are more connected because of their aura color, their light within their aura itself. And they know that they're communicators. So sometimes if they opt to, they will come speak to you. Sometimes you got to give them permission to speak to you too. And I remember another place, I was at a fort in Nova Scotia called Lewisburg. And there was and I was there with my ex-wife again. And I went out there, and I knew there was somebody there. Now, I couldn't hear anybody, but I could feel them there. there's a weird different feeling when somebody's kicking around. You could feel like, sense them, right? That clairsentient ability. I said, I feel like there's somebody here. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk to them because I prepared her, but she's not that open to this. Hence why we're divorced. I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk to him. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to give him permission to talk to him. And I said, excuse me, spirit person, astral being, I know that you're here, and I want you to know that I know that you're here, and it's okay to talk to me. Now, it's only me and her in this room, in this fort, in this back house in the fort itself. And then some guy with a French accent goes, hello? I'm like, she just about fell backwards and shit her pants, mind you, because it scared her so bad. That's somebody outside. That had to be somebody. She runs outside. There's nobody here. That's somebody on the other side of the wall. I said, that's a moat. There's nobody in a moat. And she goes out and looks through the little hole. There's nobody in the moat. And I said, it was him. She goes, you never do that again. That freaked her out. She said, I don't ever talk to spirits when I'm around. And I'm like, and that's okay. I respect that, because that scared her. Because to me, it's normal. It's part of life. It's people, right? And no matter who they are, who they believe they are, or where they're stuck or struggling, because even in life, I meet people. I've been to Vegas a few times, right? There's a lot of, you walk down the street down there, you'll see a lot of people, struggling with depression, grief, and drug abuse, mental illness. They're still people. They're not. There's many people there that aren't in that same place they are, but there's some physical people you can see that struggle with that. There's some spirits that are in that same space. So I approach them, no matter who they are, as the truest person essence of they are, which is that light first.
Yeah.
And I try to help them remember that. And then occasionally I've even gone to a place that I went to in Calgary, another place that somebody brought me in. She said, well, there's somebody here. And I'm like, well, I'll go check it out. And I went into their basement, and sure enough, there was a guy downstairs working on his workbench down there. And I didn't even get to talk to this guy. He just turned around and looked at me and walked right towards me so fast I couldn't even move. And he went right into my aura. And then it was kind of cool and weird at the same time, because I could feel this transition taking place through me. It was like all the hairs on the top of my head were standing up. It was like I got all spiked hair all of a sudden. And it was like I could feel this kind of release of energy going through my head. And I could feel him like leaving the space. And then the whole energy of the room changed. It went from being this cold, kind of weary, eerie, strange place to being a warm space. Yeah. It was just like the whole energy of the space changed.
Now, good question though, Shawn. For spirit-wise, how do you see them? Do you see them like normal as day, or do you see them actually with your third eye?
Both, sometimes.
Okay.
Both. Sometimes I see them for a moment as being a physical being. And then sometimes I just see them clairvoyantly. Sometimes I don't even see them. Sometimes I just hear them.
Okay.
Sometimes they're just there audibly. I can psychically tune into who they are and get a perception of what they look like. But they don't appear to me like standing in front of me. Not all the time. But has it happened? Yes, it has happened. But I feel it's more rare when that happens. I feel they're more able to communicate audibly to me than visually. They won't like to make a full body apparition. Have I seen full body apparitions of people? Yes. And and there was one place in Calgary that I was at, the Rouge, a restaurant there, and I went there to check it out because I heard it was haunted. I'm going to go check this out because I've heard all these stories about this place. I'm going to go have dinner, pretty expensive dinner, mind you, to see if there's a ghost. But I went for dinner and we're having this thing, and I'm thinking there's nobody there. We're having dessert. And I'm, thinking that there's nothing. I didn't see nothing. And then this man walks into this room who's about 6'3", looked like about 270 pounds, 280 pounds, wearing this old brown suit that looked like it was from the 70s. And he looked like he was dead. He was pale. And he just walks in the room. I'm like looking around to see if anybody else sees this guy. Nobody's looking at him but me. He sees that I'm looking at him, and he walks right towards me. And actually, there's a space It's like there was about this much space behind me, and he looked like he wanted to walk behind me. So I pulled my chair all the way in, and I'm leaning right over, putting my hands up because I don't want this guy to touch me. So he's like shuffling to get by me, and then he walks right through the freaking wall.
Okay.
And I was like, "Did you guys see that guy?" I'm like, "No, who did you see?" I'm like, "You did not see that 6'3", 4 guy with a brown suit walk through the wall behind me here?" No. So the waiter comes out, and I tell him about it. He goes, "Well, it's funny because that's where when we bought this house, we turned into a restaurant. It used to be, this guy, A.E. Cross, who owned the house, and that used to be a door into the kitchen. That's no longer there." So they showed me a picture of A.E. Cross, and it was him.
Yeah.
It was him. Like, it was him that was there. And apparently, sometimes the cooks, they're cooking, and the frying pans are spinning on the table by themselves. It's pretty cool. I've gone back a few times. I've never seen him again. Have I helped him transition? Possibly. He didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
Because he did walk through my light, right? So if they walk into you or through you, they can utilize your light to transcend.
That's good.
Like, I've seen them like full body where I
Yeah.
can understand why other people can't hear them. That's why I think it's so weird when I can hear somebody and other people can't hear them.
Yeah.
It's like, most of the time when I do my readings, I'm hearing them to hear.
Yeah.
Occasionally I might hear them with my ears.
Yeah.
But when I hear ghosts or earthbound spirits,
Yeah.
I hear them with my ears.
That's
Like somebody's talking to me. And this is where it gets cool, because when I know they're talking to me, even if we could be sitting side by side,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you wouldn't, but I could be with 3 other people and they would hear nothing. And I actually have to hit record to prove to you that they're talking. And I can take a recorder, hit record, and say, "I got it." Play it back, and you can hear them talking to me like another person.
Yeah. That's
And I'm like, how can you not hear that? And I can hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that part. Maybe it has to do with who I am and my connection.
Yeah. Well, what I usually say to people though is it's more though that us people are more in tune with the spiritual side, right? But we're actually here to teach people how to be more in tune with the spiritual side.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think we're all meant to be in tune with the spiritual world.
Yeah.
That's where we come from. We're going to return to, right? Where all of us none of us are getting out here in this physical form.
Yeah. So I guess
we're all going back to spirit, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like yesterday morning though. Our cat though, he was going crazy actually on the patio. And then all of a sudden I opened up and there was 2 mourning doves, male and female. Now since pretty soon though we have to put father back into the ground, his ashes, right? First thing I turned around and said, "Mom and Dad are here." Since last year I lost both my parents, right? And I got in contact with my sibling because since I'm doing the full ceremony, I'm leading it and everything else. She said though she saw the pictures and right away it hit her about Mom and Dad, right? And yeah, and so many people don't realize though animals are actually also signs.
Yeah, I mean, animals are deeply connected to the spirit world. I don't think they run when they see a ghost or another spirit because they probably have that experience. They're probably naturally more psychic than we all are.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that even spirit can utilize animals to get us messages to let us know that they're around. Because if we're not able to kind of see them in their form and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to throw this eagle right in his face," so that he'll go, "Oh my God, that's not an accident. There's something really happening here." And they do that. They will find, or they will utilize animals in the medicine of that animal to get your attention, to remind you that they are okay, that they're with you, that they're around, that they're visiting. So that they can use things like mourning doves, or blue jays, or eagles, or deer.
Yeah.
And all kinds of different things. Ladybug, a butterfly, or a dragonfly. I mean, there's so many ways that they can use signs.
It's okay. So now we're going to sort of change subject, but we're going to go with your book. Sure. I read your book while I was in the hospital 2 years ago within one night. All right. Yes. Your book really touched me. I know Trevor wanted to come down and see you in Milton, but I was in the hospital at the time. And your book, though, like honestly, I love the way that you start with your book, though, that you have right now. Not the new one yet, but the one that's out right now. It starts sort of like with the TV, like how you introduce the TV show, and then also you go into more discussion about it. How did that book take you by any chance?
Well, this is not the first attempt at this book. I literally published another book. It was a self-published book called The Language of Spirit. And I think I published it in 2018. I paid for a ghostwriter, and I self-published through Balboa Press. And I sold like 5,000 copies. So I still think I'm in the negative after paying a ghostwriter and the publishing and all that. And then, because I was out, and this is where spirit aligns, right? I didn't publish a book thinking, how can I make money off a book? I'm like, I just want to share what I know, right? And, because of this, even when I was like even contemplating writing the book, I met another guy named John Holland, and I got to tour with John. And so, it's amazing how spirit aligns things, because I never like called up John Holland going, hey, John, you want to tour with me? It was like a friend of a friend, who's also a Hayos author, hooked me up with John. And so I go out and do a couple of events with John. And then since I did my event with John, then we just stayed in contact because, he's a good guy. So we just kept in contact, similar, work place of life. And he said if I ever needed a guidance from anybody, I could always call upon him, right? And then he's at Hay House headquarters, and he's walking by an office and overhears a conversation about them looking for more Indigenous authors. Just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he backs up and goes, like, pardon me? Like, what did you say? Like, I think I heard what you said, but I just want to make sure I heard it right. And she says, yeah, we're looking for a couple of new Indigenous authors to have in the Hayos team. And he goes, you don't know who Shawn Leonard is? No? Well, he's got a book published through Balboa Press, and I think he sold like something like 5,000 copies of his book. He's got a TV show in Canada. And I think he's on his like third season now or something like that. And they're like, really? We never heard of him. And next they're looking me up, and then I have a meeting. And, after they went through some of the writing for my first book, they go, we would like to republish that book under a new name, more stories, more teachings, more in depth. Will obviously be edited by Hayos, and would you be into that? And I'm like, yeah. I love that, and so that's how Spirit Talker came about. At the same time, I'm talking to them about doing the book. They're like, "Have you ever thought about doing an oracle card deck?" I'm like, "Funny that you mentioned it. I always did think about doing an oracle card deck." And so I did Wisdom of the Elders oracle card deck too, which I see on your shelf up.
Yeah,
yeah. So it was just everything just aligned in that moment. How everything brought it together. I never had a book agent looking for a book deal for me. It was just everything, like Spirit has a plan. Right?
Yeah.
And that's everything just aligned. I love it when stuff like that. That's what my life is like. It's eerily weird how everything aligns. I literally just I just did a cross Canada tour in Canada, and I won't say who, but there was a celebrity agent that came to see me, who's won 2 Oscars. And next I'm getting a call from this lady who's won 2 Oscars and wants a reading. And so I did this the other day. I'm like, this is just, like, my life is so strange. Like, how did I go from this guy that didn't even think he was psychic to having a TV show, being an author, and having celebrities go on, for God's sakes? It's odd. My life is so strange, but I love it. I just show up and the creator sends me the podcast, sends me the people, and to share my stories and teachings and messages and understanding. Yeah. And I just say yes, I'm available.
Jill.
So if someone told you at 16 that your life would be like this today, would you have believed that?
No, I wouldn't know.
That's fun. Now your next book though that's coming out later this year. Right. Yeah. Can you sort of describe it if you don't mind?
Walking with the Spirit Totem.
Okay.
And it's funny because it all came to be when I had the conversation about Spirit Talk. I met one of the CEOs of Hayos, Patty Gift. And when I was talking to her, I was telling her about one of my stories, and she loved it. She was very interested. And I did put it in Spirit Talker. And the story is about where a polar bear comes in a dream. And what happened was I had this dream where these 7 shadow people I didn't know who these shadows were, but they were trying to do me harm. And for whatever reason, in my dream, I was running for my life in this field. So I'm running in the field, and I'm thinking, oh my God, these guys are going to hurt me, right? And I'm running as fast as I can. And then I look at the edge of the forest. And of all things that pop out of the forest, there's these 7 polar bears that walk out. I'm like, what the hell is polar bears doing coming out of the freaking forest in the first place? So I said, okay, I'd rather outrun the people than the polar bears get me on toast. I'm the closest to the polar bears. So I turn around and start running towards the shadows. But I'd rather face them than the polar bears.
Yeah.
I'm running for my life again, trying to get away from the polar bears, and I can't quite get to these shadows because they're running away too. So I literally surrendered in the field and got on my knees and waited for the polar bears to come and eat me. And each polar bear ran past me. And the 7 shadows that were in the field, each polar bear kind of bounced on. And then they just disappeared. They just disintegrated. Then after all the shadows were gone, all 7 polar bears turned around and merged into one bear, one great bear. And he stared at me in the eyes with just love. And I was like, and I woke up. I'm like, oh my God, the polar bear is not, wasn't there to hurt me. The polar bear was there to help me. So, and I felt I have this like power totem animal, right? Because part of Indigenous cultures, we're deeply connected to the animal nation. Yeah. And I feel, from my understanding, and I'm teaching something new in a sense with this too, because I feel in Indigenous culture, just like, and I kind of understand this now, because when I was young, I had my guide Sam. And as I got older, I met Victoria, another spiritual guide. And then later in life, I met a new guide named Eliza, who I didn't even know I had, right? And I feel like we probably, through every stage of life, from infancy to youth to adult to elder, because that's with the medicine wheel, there's 4 directions, right? And we've broken it down into these ages, like pinnacle parts of life, that I've had a new guide come in different stages. And it goes the same for animals. I've had different animals come to me at each stage of life.
Okay.
One, my name is White Eagle Spirit.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a medicine that I carry, right? But I also connected to the polar bear. And I feel like I'm also, because of the TV show, connected to the white buffalo.
Yeah.
And I think there's an owl that is presenting itself to me now. So I feel like I have my 4 animal totems. But after the connection to the polar bear, and this is, I really wanted to connect to the polar bear in a greater way. And I spoke to Spirit, and I had my own little ceremony with some smudge. And I asked the Great Spirit of the Bear to come to me, and I said, I would love to carry some of your medicine. If you could find a way to gift me a claw that belongs to you, then I will know without doubt that your medicine was meant to be with me. And I let it go. And then some time went by, and I thought, hey, and I kind of got discouraged because it didn't show up right away. So I'm looking on eBay for gold claws. I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll buy myself a gold claw, right? That's close enough. It's not a real claw, but it's a gold claw made of 14 karat gold. I could wear that, and then a voice in my head says, that's not what you asked. And I'm like, okay, you're right. So I told my wife, she laughed at me. So I was like, okay, I let it go. And then maybe a month or so later, I get a package in the mail. It's from a lady named Barbara Kent Bishop, who lives in Newfoundland. And she sent me a little note. And in the note, there was a little red box wrapped in red cloth. And in the note, she said, Shawn, we was just in Labrador. And I met with an Inuk elder. And it's funny because he gave me a gift. He gave me 2 polar bear claws. And he said one was for me, but he said there was another claw that he was giving me that I had to gift to someone else. And I went home and I thought about this, and I thought there's no one else I could think of to gift this to than you. I hope that you accept this gift, and I hope that you carry it, and it's meant for you. So obviously, it was very profound. I carry that medicine every day.
Yeah.
I carry that claw that came to me, the polar bear claw. And, shortly after that, it gets weirder. I had a lady come to my house who doesn't know anything about the story. bring me a little piece of polar bear fur that she was doing taxidermy in a little shop out in Enfield, Nova Scotia. And she brings me a little piece of polar bear fur. And then I have another lady within a month after that call me and say, Shawn, me and my mom would really like to have a reading. I know you don't do them anymore, but if, I have something that I could offer you that I'm hoping that you accept in exchange. She goes, we have a polar bear rug. Would you take this in exchange for a reading? I'm like, well, let me think about it. Yeah, I think I can do it. So I got 3 parts.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, when writing this, the animals started connecting even greater. I've got 2 more connections to polar bears since writing, during the writing of the book. Someone else from Ontario, and in this red cloth, there's another cloth from a different bear. And I'm just going to take the camera off for a second. And I don't know if you can see my pool.
Yeah.
Polar bear on it.
It's a whole polar bear. The whole head, the claws, the tail, the whole thing. It's like over my pool table now. And so she said her father-in-law had passed away, and they had, they didn't know what to do with this rug because it was in the closet. It's like 50 years old. And he got it from an Inuk person in exchange for money for a sled when he was up north, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they gave me a call and said, Shawn, would you like this? I'm like, yes. So now I have 5 parts of 5 completely different polar bears. And I received 2 of those during the writing of the Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals book. I feel like there's still 2 more coming.
Okay.
Because in the dream, there were 7 bears. And it's funny because the bear that I have on my pool table, the bear that I looked at in my dream is that bear. It is him. I recognize him on a soul level. I know it's him. They knew they were connected to me before I even know who they were. And I feel like each of these bears, the 7 animals, these 7 bears, are all sending me a piece of themselves so that I can have their medicines as I walk through life. And that's just one of the totems. I have many different connections to the white buffalo. I mean, the first medicine that was ever gifted to me was a white buffalo, the ashes of a white buffalo, by another Algonquin elder that lives in Spain now, named Andre Chevalier. And he was a medium. And really nice guy. And so these things have been gifted to me, including the name and I won't tell you too much more because there are more things in the book.
Yeah.
There's a story about me, about these coming to me, and the understanding of me, understanding how 4 medicines will come to you for 4 different animals throughout your life. But it's about you connecting to your spiritual animals.
Yeah.
Remembering who they are, giving you meditation, some prayers and things that you can engage to connect with your animal totems. And helping you understand how the different types of medicines they carry, like between a spirit totem animal as opposed to a power totem animal. Because there's different roles that each of the animals play. And spiritually they guide me, and one guides me with their power of protection. So that's what this new book's about. And when I was telling him about Spirit Talker on that conversation, after I was done writing, and thankfully it became a bestseller in Canada, Spirit Talker, they said, John, have you thought about writing some more books? I'm like, well, send us some ideas. So I sent them like 7 ideas, and they said, I remember the story you told us about the bear. We want you to write us a totem animal book. I'm like, I don't, I'd rather write something else. I said, there's another book I have in mind that's at the top of my list. And she goes, I'll tell you what, if you write this book for us about spirit totem animals, we'll sign you to the other book deal on that. You write them both, and we'll sign you to a 2-book deal. And I said, okay, you got me. So I wrote the book.
So good. Yeah, I can't wait until I actually order it. Again, those right now for people listening, you can actually order it definitely on Amazon, but it does not come out until later on this year. Unfortunately, Shawn does not sell it. I've actually asked Shawn that about his cards. But good question though, Shawn. Your feather. Is it actually on the cover?
The feather? Well, there is a feather on the cover. But the story about this, the feather on the cover, the white feather.
Yeah.
It's not an eagle feather. Although I think it is an eagle feather on here. But it has to do with a story in the book. And the story is about a connection to my father.
Yeah.
And, it's about my father and sending me a feather in the most profound. Actually, my ancestors sending me a feather in the most profound way, and that's why I say it's so important to have ceremonies and connect to your people. I was just in Hawaii, just literally less than a week ago, and the story pertains to a trip that I went to the Big Island of Hawaii, like pre-COVID, and I love it there because it's a sacred space, and there's Indigenous people there, and they have these volcanoes that are amazing, and you get to go really high. And so I went up on top of a volcano and I had a ceremony, and I laid some smudge and tobacco, and I invited my ancestors to be with me in life, and I invited them to be with me on this vacation because I just love it there. It feels like heaven on earth to me in Hawaii. And so I go back to my Airbnb, and the next morning we wake up and we're on the third floor of this Airbnb, and we're having coffee. And me and my wife sitting on the deck. I see a little white feather floating down from the sky. And it's really going really slow, just like, this is kind of weird. And me and my wife are looking at it, and she's like, the wind's blowing, but it's not blowing in the wind. Like, how is this like floating down like so slow and not going anywhere?
It's like it has a trajectory it's going, and it's on its way to you.
Yeah, but it didn't come to me right away. It floated down past my deck. And then something in my head goes, Shawn, hold out your hand. So I put out my hand like this. And my wife, Michelle, goes, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I just heard a voice that put out my hand. And then the feather floated back up. And then floated 90 degrees towards me and landed right in the palm of my hand.
That was meant for you.
And I literally, it wasn't a big feather, but I cried, and Michelle was crying. It was like a moment that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. That, because of that ceremony in Hawaii, and the invitation of asking my ancestors, my people, to spend time with me, from my grandmom to my father to everybody that I love, that I feel like it was like almost them answering me, saying, "Hey, I'm with you. I'm here." Just like the doves.
Yeah.
Right? They will find a unique and special way to remind you that they're here, and that was that for me. So when they did the cover, the feather wasn't originally on it.
Okay.
They said, you know what? I'd really like to put a feather on there. So they put like an eagle-looking feather, but it was about that size in reality, because it was only this big, right?
Okay, yeah.
But they put it on, and they said it's perfect. I love it because that story was so profound for me. That if it's possible for me, it's possible for all of us.
Yeah.
I don't like to say I'm special. I just like to say I just know that I'm connected.
Yes. That's what I usually say also to people. Right?
We're all connected.
Yeah. So
we're all connected. And when you activate from that space and you have your own personal ceremonies, you engage your spirit in a good way, cool things are going to start to happen. It's going to inspire you to keep walking in this journey, to be engaged with spirit, and like amazing things are going to happen to you too.
Now, are you going into another season by any chance, just before we wrap it up?
Well, I finished season 5 last year, I believe. I finished season 5, so it's coming out in October. The same time as the book's coming out. The book's coming out on October 21st. Walking These Spiritual Animals. But season 5 is coming out on APTN in October. And if you're in the U.S. or wherever you are in the world, you can watch. There's a Next Level Soul TV has season 1 on there. There's another app down in the U.S. you can watch it for free called Blossom. So you can catch season 1 of Spirit Talker wherever. But Next Level Soul TV has got it on there, and check it out.
All right. And how can people get in contact with you?
Well, if you want to get in contact with me, I don't do personal readings anymore, but I do have my course, and I do have a newsletter and things that I put out about things and where I'm going to be and such like this. A website, Shawn shawn-leonard.com. So SHAWN middle line Leonard, LEONERD.com. And if you sign up for my email list, you'll get a free meditation to connect your spirit guide. And I also send out a 5 tips video on raising your intuition and psychic abilities. It would kind of help you in that steps of like moving into the direction of connection.
All right. And just before we go, is there any peaceful words that you wish out to people by any chance?
Just be good to everyone, Don't be judgmental of people, be kind to everybody. Just be as good as a person as you can be to yourself and to other people. And if we approach life in that way, then you've got pretty much lived.
All right. So on behalf of Jillian and myself, we do say thank you much to Shawn Leonard for taking part actually in today's episode. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Even if you've lost your father, or if you're soon to be a father, or even like a father role model to everybody, happy Father's Day to you and to you, Shawn.
Well, thank you. Happy Father's Day to my dad and all the dads out there alive and in the spirit.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.